Good morning, everybody. Once again, you are welcome at the Sudha-Success channel of Commissionerate of College Education, Higher Education Department, Rajasthan. I am Dr. Vineeta Srivastava from SMB Government PG College, Nathdwara. We have gathered once again here to discuss on some more aspects on human rights. The objective here is to put up different questions which have been asked in different competitive exams on human rights. I have tried to compile various such type of questions along with suitable explanations so that students will gather a better understanding about human rights. The first question about the human rights is the Protection of Human Rights Act in India was enacted in which year? 1993, 1994, 1995 or 1996? It's a simple question and I think all of you must know the answer. The answer is 1993A. The Protection of Human Rights Act in India was enacted in the year 1993. So now comes the next question. When changes have been made in the Protection of Human Rights Act? Options are A. 2001 and 2017, B. 1999 and 2019, C. 2006 and D. 2006 and 2019. Let me tell you the answer. The Human Rights Protection Act was enacted in 1993 and the amendments, first time amendment in this act were made in 2006 and it was known as the Protection of Human Rights Amendment Act 2006. And recently also amendments have been made in this act, particularly on the NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, which have been constituted under this act in 2019. And it was known as the Protection of Human Rights Amendment Act 2019. So the correct answer is D, 2006 and 2019. Now there is a question, which of the following are moral principles that describe certain standards of human behavior and are regularly protected as legal rights? The options are national rights, B. human rights, C. women rights and D. man rights. Obvious है, the answer is B. the human rights. Human rights are the rights inherent to human beings, whatever our place of residence, origin, nationality, sex, religion, language or any other status. These are rights which are interrelated, interdependent and indivisible. Now comes the next question. Which is the world's first charter of human rights? The options are Cyrus Cylinder, B. the Constitution of Media, C. Bill of Rights and D. Magna Carta. Here comes the answer. The answer is C. So, answer is A. The Cyrus cylinder. Cyrus cylinder was created by King Cyrus, and it is known as the world's first charter of human rights. It is translated into all 6 official languages of the United Nations, and its provisions parallel the first 4 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The next question is, which one of the following played an important role in international human rights law? World War, Economic Summit, the United Nations, and Treaty of Versailles. I think you must know the answer. The answer is obviously the United Nations. The United Nations has played an important role in international human rights law since its inception in 1945 at Yalta Conference. The Allied powers agreed to create a new body to supplant the League's role. And the next question, when did the Cairo Declaration of Human Rights in Islam adopted? Options are 1985, 1990, 1995 and 2000. And the answer is B, 1990. The Cairo Declaration of Human Rights in Islam is a declaration of the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation adopted at Cairo at Egypt on August 5, 1990. It provides an overview on the Islamic perspective on human rights. This is also a very important question. Human rights and civil rights are the same or not? The statement human rights and civil rights are the same. And the question asks whether this statement is true or false. The answer is human rights and civil rights are different. This statement is not right. This is false. Answer is B. Human rights are usually agreed upon rights that people of various groups believe all people regardless of gender, religion or any other status. And civil rights deal more with the agreed upon obligation on government owes to its people. Many times questions are asked about the full form of various terms. Here come some questions which deal with the popularly used terms regarding human rights. This question is, what is the full form of OHCHR? The answer is United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Here comes the next question. ICESCR. What is the full form of this term? And the answer is International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. What is ICCPR? Is a frequently asked question. The answer is International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and its 2 protocols which were enacted in 1966 and 1989. What is the CERD? The answer is International Covenant on the Elimination of all forms of racial discrimination, and it came into force in 1963. Human rights entitles Human rights entitles mankind to comfort, convenience, decent, civilized, and dignified life, and guarantee of existence. Which option is correct option? A, B, C, D. The answer is C. Human rights entitles mankind to decent, civilized, and dignified life. Cat is also an important term, and the question about it have been frequently asked. What is the full form of CAT? The answer is Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment. This convention came into force in 1984. Human rights deal with various concepts, and genocide is also a very important concept. Genocide refers to a tendency, an attitude of killing the whole caste or group or category. The question is about its inceptor, who coined the term genocide. The options are A. Raphael Lemkin, B. Eleanor Roosevelt, C. P. Thornberry, and D. Jefferson. Who coined the term genocide? The answer is Raphael Lemkin. Raphael Lemkin first time coined this term genocide. Nowadays, a lot of discussion have been taking place about the problems and issues of refugees, and we know that refugees also do have human rights. The question is, which one of the following statements is not correct about the refugees? A. They are outside their country. B. Fear of prosecution. D. Absence of national protection. And D. Poverty as reason of being outside the country. I think the answer is obvious. D is the statement which is not correct about the refugees. Poverty as the reason of being outside the country. We know that there are different generations of human rights. The next question is, who introduced the concept of third generation human rights? Options are A. Julius Caesar, B. Jeremy Bentham, C. John Finnis, and D. Karel Vasek. The answer is D. Karel Vasek. The next question is, which one of the following categories of fundamental rights incorporates abolition of untouchability? The options are right to religion, right to equality, right to freedom, and right against exploitation. The answer is easy. Answer is right to equality. Where there will be equality, there will obviously be no untouchability. The next question is about right to education in our constitution. Right to education is guaranteed under which article of the Constitution of India? A. Article 14, B. Article 19, C. Article 21A, D. Article 21. And the answer is C. Article 21A. The right to education was not the part of fundamental rights when the Constitution was constituted and implemented in 1950. It was introduced later, and it was introduced through the Article 21A, and after that after introducing this article, the Right to Education Act was also came into picture. Here comes the question about fundamental duties. Fundamental duties in our Constitution are in which part of the Constitution? Part 4, Article 51A, Part 4, Article 51B, Part 3, Article 35, and D, Part 3, Article 17. Which one is the correct answer? The answer is Part 4, Article 51A. A is the correct answer. Here comes the question about child labor by 17 years old. The options are: is always a violation of the rights of the child. B, is a violation of the rights of the child if the task is harmful. And C, can be acceptable if government has fixed the minimum working age to be under 17 years. The answer is that the statement C is correct. The Children's Rights Convention bans child labor if it is in dangerous or a form of exploitation, but allows governments to fix the age under which the ban is valid. There is much pressure to teach more stringent restrictions on child labor. So C is the correct answer. Here comes a question about death penalty. A lot of discussion have been taking place whether death penalty should be given or not. If we can't give life to anybody, we have no right to take the life from anybody. This argument has been given very frequently. The question is, the death penalty options are: A, is in general forbidden all over the world. B, is abolished in law or practice by more than 50% of the countries. And C, is not allowed in the case of young people under 18. Which is the correct statement? Obviously, the option A, statement A, is not the correct statement. We know that death penalty in very specific cases have been given by the courts all over the world. B and C are correct and A is not. The death penalty is not totally banned in UN treaties nor by the ECHR, though in both cases it is banned by an optional protocol. Protocol C, abolition of the death penalty in peacetime, and Protocol 13, abolition of the death penalty in all circumstances, to the ECHR, have both been signed and or ratified by many states. The next question is, according to the clauses of the right to education, A. Individuals and groups are allowed to open a school as long as they fulfill the minimum legal conditions. B. There are no obligations concerning the contents of educational programs. C. Governments are bound to provide compulsory education for all young people under 18. So let us see what the correct answer is. A is correct. B and C are not. International conventions such as the Children's Rights Convention stipulate that education has to inform children about human rights. The next question is about the freedom of religion. Freedom of religion, A, cannot be denied to people on the ground that they belong to a minority group. B, the freedom of religion obliges nations to recognize and subsidize religion. C, cannot be restricted in any way by a state. Let's see. A is the correct answer. Nations are obliged to respect the freedom of religion but don't have the legal obligation for any system of recognition or subsidization. States can restrict the freedom of religion, for example, where the religion would be in opposition to fundamental human rights. What is it right? Now we have a next question about the right to property. We have three statements. We have to tell which statement is right and which statement is not right. So the right to property doesn't mean that governments cannot take a possession from someone if this is in the public interest. B is violated if an entire village is evacuated without due compensation in order to build a hydroelectric power station. And C allows a person to consider goods that they have stolen as his or her property. So C is obviously the wrong answer, wrong statement. A and B are the correct statement. The right to property doesn't mean that governments cannot take a possession from someone if it is in the public interest. And in India, government have been taking properties for different public projects like metros, like highways, and so many other public interest projects. And B is violated if an entire village is evacuated without due compensation in order to build a hydroelectric power station. Because whenever governments take the property in public interest, government has to give due compensation to the owners of the property. Now, next question is about elections. What is the correct statement about elections? All citizens are allowed to vote even if they have lost their civil rights due to criminal activity. 2 votes for each person are allowed if the voter is an employer. The balloting must be performed secretly, which is a correct statement. Only C is the correct statement. A state can prevent persons who have lost their civil rights from voting. Equal rights for everyone who is entitled to vote is an international rule. The question about right to work. The right to work obliges states to provide jobs for all their citizens. The right to work means that no one can be fired arbitrarily. The right to work doesn't mean a government has to make efforts to realize full employment. Let us see what the correct statement is. The correct statement is B. In Europe, states are obliged to undertake efforts to realize full employment, but this is not included in UN treaties. The right to a healthy environment forbids states to dump toxic waste that spoils the soil irreversibly. The right to a healthy environment aims at protecting human beings, animals, and plants. The right to a healthy environment is not yet fixed as a universal right. So let us see which are the correct statements. C is the correct statement. The right to a healthy environment is not yet fixed as a universal right. National Human Rights Commission. Which kind of body it is? Is it a statutory body? Is it a constitutional body? It is a multilateral institution? Or it is both A and C, statutory body as well as a multilateral institution? The answer is D, both A and C. The National Human Rights Commission is a statutory body that was constituted by the Act passed in the Parliament. The NHRC of India is a statutory public body constituted on 12th October 1993 under the Protection of Human Rights Ordinance of 28th September 1993. Presently, it is comprised of a speaker and 4 members. Hence, this is a multilateral institution. So here comes the next question. Who is the current chairman of the National Human Rights Commission? The options are Justice A.S. Anand, Justice H.L. Dattu, Justice S. Rajendra Babu, and Justice K. Balakrishnan. The correct answer is B. Justice H.L. Dattu is the retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and is the present chairperson of National Human Rights Commission.